Hi everyone. So this would be a video. Gotta strike while the iron's hot, you know. This video looking at, I want to look at each of the suits individually, okay, from the Buddha Tarot. And over the last year, this is in part how I've done that. This is in part how I've learned and understood the philosophy and background underpinning the choices made by Robert in Place in his Buddha Tarot before the new edition came out. So while I was sort of waiting for the new edition to come out, which we all thought would be sooner than it was, and who knows why, who knows, we just don't know. There's so many things we can't know, but it was absolutely not a moment wasted. If anything, I just find that the new book, it offers even more insight and depth than what I had previously. But I knew picking up the original deck, right? So picking this guy up, the Llewellyn version, that I was going to have a lot of learning, understanding, and so forth to do in getting beyond the layer of the Buddhist concepts and ideas contained within it, okay? Because additionally, there's like you see, if you've studied much Buddhism, like go from one sect in Buddhism to the next, and you're going to find some very major differences. My mom always says, "Oh, it's a very different flavor, isn't it?" So there's a different flavor in here that I realized I wasn't going to be able to get to the bottom of without understanding how Place approaches tarot, full stop. And so in the pursuit of that, we see here, obviously the Buddha Tarot was the first of his decks that I ever purchased, and as you can see, I'm now the proud owner of 4 other ones. Okay, and these are just the tarot decks. This is not including any of his other decks. Like he's got a wonderful Hermes playing card set that I have, and the Lenormand that he did with Rachel Pollack, which I still have my eyes on. There are so many more, and frankly, at this point, I love his work. I have cultivated such a deep love of his work that I imagine whenever any of his decks become available again, or it's, any of them are online for a price that's not ruinously expensive, I'll probably pick them up, frankly. Sip of coffee there, or I'll definitely pick them up, actually. The only thing I can't do is another out-of-print deck that is ruinously expensive. Just can't do it. So I'm hopeful that other publishers, Schiffer, friends at Schiffer, if you're listening, if you wanted to pick up, say the Vampire Tarot, for example, or any of his out-of-print decks that are now not available, boy howdy would I jump for joy and promote the hell out of those and study them. So there we are. So that said, so what did I learn? Why did I learn, and why is it even relevant here? If you're trying to learn, because ultimately this video is for me, but it's also really just for anyone trying to learn and work with the Buddha Tarot. And because I needed it to fit in shot at a reasonable space without too much of the legs of my tripod in the way, I really could not fit this big hunking chunking deck, right, the new one, into the shot. So and that's fine. I work with both of them, but I need to have one that's in order anyway, so that I can get into it. I need one out of order that I can shuffle and work with, right? So I've been using the big one for my daily draws because I'm having fun playing with it. And I've been keeping the out-of-print one in order so that I can work with it in this fashion. And of course, that also means that for the time being, while I'm still studying, I'm now not working with, formally working with any of these. So which are these decks? What decks are we looking at? So the most important concept we need to understand, especially looking at the Buddha Tarot, okay, and looking at any of Place's major decks, is the alchemical and or transformative connection that lies therein. So, you know, the Buddha Tarot and the path of Vajrayana Buddhism specifically, which we're clearly, you know, well into in this deck, is a path of transformation. Okay, the path of this Buddhist path is alchemical in nature. All right, so already, you know, because Place has created, really, ultimately, his own system of the tarot, which he really has. I mean, ultimately, he's almost got, it's definitely his own perspective, and as you can see, it penetrates every single deck, I think, that he creates, every single tarot deck, in some form or other, all right? So what he's mixing into, what he's looking at here can all be found in the title of this here book. You know, it's the Tarot, Magic, Alchemy, Hermeticism, and Neoplatonism. All right, so every one of his decks is going to contain these components. They're all part of what he does. All right, so that's the first thing. Now, that takes us first, of course, to the Alchemical Tarot Renewed, 5th edition. There is now a 6th edition that I have my eye on, and I really, really, really want. I'm not going to geek on that right now because that's not the point of this video, but suffice it to say, I'm in love with this deck. It just, I don't know, it just started to read for me out of nowhere. It just started to read for me and tell me everything that it's amazing. It's an amazing deck. It's really, it's a great reader. It's a talker. I could go on and on, obviously, but that's this deck. All right. And I've got these positioned in a specific way here because it's important. So the Alchemical Tarot, this really embodies everything that Place believes in terms of the tarot and his understanding of it. All right. So then we get, right next to it, we get the Tarot of the Alchemical Magnum Opus. All right. So he even says here, an iconic edition of the Alchemical Tarot distilled to its essence. All right. So that is our second deck here, right next door. All right. And it literally is taking, as you can see, all of the detail, all of the information of this card, and it's just like, if this were an icon, you know, what would it be? How simple could I make it? And that's what we get here. Then, further on here to the left, we get the Alchemical Tarot of Marseille. Okay, and as he writes here at the bottom, an interpretation of the French tarot that references alchemy and the Hermetic texts. All right, and so yeah, it's amazing, and I love it. You know, it's just the most wonderful thing. So what we have here is a way of taking Tarot de Marseille, and these two are relevant as these two. All right, you're going to see that in a moment. But what he does is he places, you know, text from the Hermeticum or the Hermetica up here, you know, in various places throughout the deck. They're not usually anywhere but the aces and the majors. I can't remember if they're on the quartz or not. I don't think they're on the quartz. But the aces and the majors have them. And again, we're taking this idea of these cards and we're going further. So if you want to understand a deck that has pips, right? If you want to understand, and this is why I purchased it too, how he works with pips, right? And pippish looking cards. You want to understand how he incorporates the Tarot de Marseille, which, you know, about which he is essentially an expert, into a deck like this. All right. So hope that makes sense. Similarly, when we look at how he's going to boil down the Alchemical Tarot, we're looking at a very similar concept, right? Very similar style pips. Very different, right? Now, but you can see before I move on, you can see how, right, when we look at these then, how they fit into the picture, right? You can see that right away. It's immediate. Then we get to these guys, and these guys are worth their weight in gold. They're also just amazing cards. They're fully illustrated pips, but they go into, obviously, into tremendous depth, you know, informing what we're seeing in those pips. Okay? So we get a much more, oh, they're so beautiful. You know, I will say, I used to really not be sure that I liked his line work, and I actually completely adore it now. I don't know, working with someone and understanding their process and understanding where they're coming from as they draw and conceive of something, it completely changes the way that you view it. It just does. So, yeah. And you see, we can start to get to the bottom of, like, where is this coming from? And I maybe have said this before. My partner is his first undergraduate degree as an MFA or a BFA was in drawing, and he took one look at, I think it was Sevenfold Mystery, and was just gasped and said, "Wow, those are beautiful. That is a beautiful deck." He absolutely loves it. Oh, I didn't even show Sevenfold. Here's Sevenfold Mystery. This one takes a slight different direction, right? Which we're going to see. But we're also going to look at, like, how does that even begin to inform, you know, the rest of, you know, the Buddha Tarot, right? And it does. It does. But essentially, where all of these decks here from Alchemical over are entirely based on, you know, the Hermeticum and the way in which Place is viewing alchemy and incorporating alchemical concepts into his tarot system, and understanding of the tarot. He is doing that here, but here he is placing the focus of the majors on the Neoplatonic ideas, all right, and Neoplatonism, of which 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? 7 is a critical number. Yeah, so there we go. And he, you know, when you look more closely at how he draws and where, you know, what's informing his line work, you know, you start to see the subtleties and the differences. There's so much in there. Yeah, he's got a definite style, but it is very nuanced once you start to know his work. It's incredibly nuanced. And it really lifts the veil of ignorance if you're someone like me, right? Like, where I was not seeing that or choosing not to see that, I now can see and appreciate in a way that I probably could have if I were paying closer attention before. So, a lot of information to take on board there, right? And a lot of background. So suffice it to say, as we get into this next video, where we're actually going to look at the suit of Vajras and swords, all right, you're going to want to get a nice hot cup of tea or something, a beverage, a notebook, you know, something like that that's going to be helpful if you really are wanting to study it. If you're just nerding with the rest of us, you know, welcome. You're nerds, you know, we love nerds. But it's going to be a longer video, and obviously, because we're just going to go through aces and 10, you know, all the way up to 10. Okay? And we're going to read from the texts. Ta-da! All right, friends. See you shortly in the next video.